Hello, hi, I'm KyloNeko. And are you tired of using Windows? Do you need more convincing on why you should be switching to Linux, for example? Well, don't you worry. With the death of Windows 10, the Windows 10 that happened about 2 weeks ago, there are more creators that have also decided to voice their opinions on the subject, on why they use Linux, why they think it's a better option, and how it helps their VTubing, streaming, general use cases, even stuff for like video game and software development. So, you heard enough from me when it came to the end of Windows 10 with that video. But I do want to at least showcase these creators who have decided to voice their opinions on the matter. So if you could please give them a look.
Hello guys, welcome to my setup. And if you're wondering who this cutie is on the wallpaper back here, this guy is actually me. My name's Nekomi Fujiwara. I am a VTuber and also a engineering student. Unfortunately, because I'm kind of busy, so I don't really want to do too much editing, so I'll just record it from my phone instead. Now, after I heard an invite from a fellow VTuber that wants us to make a bunch of clips to introduce Linux to the public, so here I am. Now, before I talk about Linux, I want to talk about the cons of Linux before I talk about the pros. The cons is just that some certain applications literally unable to run on Linux. Especially a lot of those related with CADing, I guess, and also some games as well. Well, that's sort of the reason why I still haven't fully switched from Linux. I'm actually dual booting. But I get it. But honestly, that's pretty much the only reason why you still need Windows. Literally, yes. Compatibility is literally the only reason that's stopping you. Now, if you don't have these kind of issues that I do need, like needing certain software for your course, I'll show you why you should switch to Linux. Now, one of the first key points of people talking about Linux is that Linux is really hard. Well, how do you explain the fact that I managed to turn my grandparents' old laptop into a Linux machine and they are loving it? Yes, my grandparents. If my grandparents could do it, so can you. Now, the other thing that I really like about Linux is the customization. It's you can make it look however you want. You can make it look as pretty as I do. You can make it use default settings. It doesn't mind how you use it. It's just lets you do it, you know. The other thing that I really like about Linux is that it's just free. Yeah, it's free. You don't have to pay a ton of cash to some big corporation anymore. You just download it. The only thing about Linux is that it works with pretty much every other system. Now, recently, when Windows release decided to turn Windows 10 into end of life. And unfortunately for the newer release, aka Windows 11, they did put up some requirements that older hardware tend to not have. Well, I mean, to be fair, my hardware is kind of new, but again, there are still older hardware that could be used. But the reason why people just throw them away is because, well, Windows just don't support them anymore. And by turning it into Linux, you can actually save the environment by literally removing e-waste from the planet, which is quite green in my opinion, and everyone should start doing it. The other thing about Linux is that it won't give you ads at all. This is why when I try to study really hard for whatever exam or whatever coursework that I'm trying to do, which I do get a bunch, it won't distract you with ads. So which makes the whole computer experience kind of zen in my opinion. Well, I mean, the other main good thing for Linux is that I won't have some useless features like AI, Copilot, like bothering you. You don't, like, not everyone needs AI. I understand if some people need it, but not everyone needs it, and you don't need it default on your computer. In Linux, you can choose what you want and don't want. Unlike in Windows, where you always have to have an edge. Not everyone edges. That's just a fact. And most importantly, Linux won't spy on your stuff. Okay? It just won't. Like, it just let you use it and be happy with it. So that's all I can say. So from this video, I hope you try to have a better understanding, and I hope you manage to get the switch. Yeah. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Hello, I'm Tobekko or Tobekko FI on Twitch. For a bit of that background on me, I've been either studying or working IT for about 20 years, and I've been a Windows guy for most of that time. And well, I started with Windows 3.1 way back, and except for Windows 8, I was pretty happy with it up until about 11. Well, maybe even 10, but still. Like for me, up until that time, Linux was mostly for servers, and well, Apple was for hipsters in my mind, but you know, things change, and so do people, even me. But now that Microsoft is sort of hell-bent on doing all the stuff that they're doing, well, I switched to Linux a few years ago, and actually I can show you the headline why I switched to Linux. So, yeah, for some reason they decided that they were gonna start putting ads in the file explorer. And, well, this was like when I decided that no, this is enough for me. But then they just like, they just kept going with Windows Recall, which is gonna take, well, it's gonna take screenshots of fucking everything you do. So that's gonna be fun. And God knows what they're doing with that information. They're adding Copilot AI into Notepad. Actually, I think this might already be implemented. And, well, why not put it in MS Paint as well? Yeah, so for my personal life, I mostly use Linux now, but I'm still forced to face Windows at work. But maybe that will change at some point as well if Microsoft keeps doing all this stuff. I'm going to try not to go too long on this, so will Linux work for you? Maybe. Will all the software and hardware you use work? Maybe. Some art software might not work, and a lot of music and audio stuff might also not work, so if you do a lot of that stuff, you might need to figure out new software and workflows. For me, it's been relatively painless. Sometimes I have to search the internet for various solutions to various problems, but like, I had to do that for Windows as well. And when things in Windows go wrong, it's like working on a car that's not designed to be repaired, when Linux is a car that maybe breaks more often, not really in my opinion, but it's way easier to fix because you can actually like get under the hood and like do things. The amount of control Linux also affords you is pretty ridiculous, and well, if you don't want to dig into all of that, you don't really have to. Like, I haven't done a lot of customization on my own PC, or like OS here. So, well, for me, Linux works fine for what I do in my free time. Like Blender, Krita, Sprite, Godot, Reaper, OBS, they all have native Linux versions. If you buy a capture card with like standard video or USB-C support, it will probably work fine. I have an Elgato HD60X and it works fine. And like, even the cheap drawing display I bought, like a XP Pen drawing display, works fine with Linux. Like, just get drivers from XP Pen and it works. As I understand, Huion and Wacom also works fine. My finishing thought is basically going to be this, and this is what I've been saying to people, because I don't want to be like too much proselytizing or like overhyping Linux, but I don't know if Linux will work for your specific situation, but if you have the opportunity to test it and the motivation to leave Microsoft, then I do think you owe it to yourself to try. Other people have probably already gone through all the vtubing stuff, so I'm pretty much going to skip all that. So, yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for listening. Yay, bye.
Windows has the world in a chokehold when it comes to operating systems, and while you might be into that, Microsoft really doesn't care much for your consent or security. It seems that ever since the release of Windows 11, Microsoft just continues to in-shitify the experience, only to squeeze out more money and data out of its users. But don't worry, my masochistic viewer, the Linux terminal is gonna be your new best friend. Hi, I'm MICA, a cyberpunk bartender VTuber, and I have I mean, I use Linux. About a year ago, I was just so sick of Windows 11 pushing ads and AI into my face, so I made this jump to Linux. Most of you probably have the impression that Linux is something for nerds and those that dwell in their parents' basement, typing away on their terminal, pretending to hack the mainframe. However, that is no longer the case, thanks to Valve and their development of the Steam Deck that vastly improved and accelerated the development of Proton, a compatibility layer of getting Windows games to run on Linux. With the exception being some competitive games that use anti-cheat. While I personally have a background in IT, and I like to tinker with software and hardware every now and then, Linux has evolved to the point where it is actually user-friendly, to the point that the average user can use it without ever touching the terminal in their life. The choice of distros can be a bit overwhelming at the start and offers more diversity than the average Pride Parade. But it's honestly really simple if you just follow this handy flowchart. Just kidding. There's honestly no right or wrong operating system, and they're all able to do pretty much the same. As a beginner, I can recommend anything that is based on Ubuntu. It is the most beginner-friendly and the most supported distro out there. Personally, for someone switching over from Windows, I recommend Mint. I will now quickly run you through on what software I use as a VTuber, what works, what doesn't work, and what alternatives there are on Linux. As you can see, I'm currently recording this in OBS, and I also regularly stream on Twitch. I also use a 2D model. For that, I use VTube Studio. For the tracking to work though, you will need to follow the guide. For those that have a 3D model, Varudo can also work. A tutorial for that is also linked in the guide. For those of you who like to play VR games, you can get VR to work. I have a Quest 2, and to use it on Linux, you will have to rely on a software called ALVR. I personally have two Elgato key lights and an Elgato Stream Deck. For the key lights and the Stream Deck both, you will need third-party software, since unfortunately Elgato doesn't provide Linux versions of their software. However, there's Stream Controller and Keylight Controller. GIMP I use as a thumbnail editor. I also do photography as a hobby, and to edit my raw images I use War Therapy. For your everyday use of, let's say, Microsoft Word and Excel, there is LibreOffice as an alternative. It even supports the Microsoft standards and file types. Now, I use an audio interface. I use the Steinberg UR12. That as well, that was just plug and play. I didn't have to download any drivers for it. I plugged my microphone in over the XLR port. Now, something interesting of note that I realized when I switched to Linux is printers. Everyone hates printers, the drivers suck, they barely work. But once I switched to Linux, once again, no drivers needed. I used the built-in software. And I never had such an easy time with printers before. It's wonderful. Now for those that think, oh, I have so many games that I legally acquired. I don't have them on Steam, what do I do? No problem, you can just add them as a non-Steam game, turn on the compatibility, select the exe, and it should work. Now to what doesn't work. I have mentioned before, Elgato software doesn't run on Linux. You will have to rely on third-party software and may have to give up certain functionalities. Stream Controller relies on small developers to develop plugins for it. Unfortunately, at the moment, there is no VTube Studio plugin for it yet, or for what I can find, so you will have to rely on keyboard shortcuts. I also mentioned anti-cheat games. For that, you will have to either use a virtual machine or just dual boot Windows. Now, for audio plugins in OBS, you will have to find Linux-compatible VST plugins. I have mentioned LSP plugins before, and that's what I use, and I had no problems with those. So honestly, if you can deal with Microsoft's bullshit, you'll be just fine on Linux. Don't be shy, give it a try. Just make sure to read the fucking manual before you ask for help. Enjoy your time on Linux, as you will have the moral superiority over your friends, and you can annoy them to install Linux every time they encounter a minor inconvenience with Windows.
Hey, welcome. I just came hot off of a pretty damn good stream. I'm Royal Bunny. You may know me from such things as and anyway, my journey with Linux. I'm pretty new with this Linux thing actually. So if you want like a slightly worse window into like what you might be like when you start Linux, here I am. So like, how do I say this? To sum it up, there was something that I couldn't do on Windows, and I couldn't move the program anywhere else because of, I don't know, reasons or something. So like, I had, I saw Linux instructions. I was like, wait a minute, I put Linux on an old laptop of mine. Why don't I try that? So I did. I did try that, and it just worked. And I was like, holy shit. Like, one of them was like, oh yeah, you needed the dependencies to do that. Also, you can't move this program off your C drive, which is full. And then I went on my laptop and did the same thing, and they're like, oh hey, you need these dependencies for this program. Oh, do you want to install them now? And I was like, yes, please, please, yes, please install them. And then it did, and that was like a whole new thing for me. I was like, oh my god, it just fucking did it. So I was like, all right, I'm set. Next PC is all Linux, baby. And I've been having a pretty good time. So why don't we start with the bad news? The bad news is that you will probably have to find workarounds for some stuff. Don't be scared, because like most things I've done, like someone's already done it way fucking cooler than I ever could. And on top of that, it's pretty much just like, oh, put your type this into the big scary terminal. Oh no. And then you do it, and then it's like, oh, okay. And it works. So that's really awesome. That's really awesome. I think for like extremely basic stuff, there's that. I've had some help along the way, of course, getting things set up. But you know, at the end of it, like yeah, everything's so simple. And I think another thing that blew me away as well is that I had a buddy of mine with me, and I was like, oh, I think I had my screenshot on my keyboard is weird. It used to be like function F5, and like that's what it says on the keyboard. So like I don't know how I'm gonna do it. And they're like, oh, okay, and they just changed it. That's probably an easy thing to do in retrospect on Windows. Just like, I don't know, he did it like in 2 seconds instead of going through like 50 million menus. So that is awesome. Yeah, honestly, like, yeah, that's like kind of like the only con is like some things require work. Almost every Steam game I've wanted to play has worked. There was a couple that didn't, and I've received the new news that apparently that was a issue with Proton or something. So now one of those games may even work for me, which is super cool. Also, you know what? I just had a brain fart. I just came off of a stream for like 3 hours, but not the longest stream in the world, but still. Oh man. But there are so many really cool and good things about Linux. Absolutely. For a start, so when I was on Windows 10, yeah. When I was on Windows 10, I didn't want to go to Windows 11. I've heard so much bad things about Windows 11. You've probably heard bad things about Windows 11 as well. So I'll tell you about the good thing. The good thing about Linux is, oh my god, my computer starts up like really fast. Like really fast. Like before, I used to like get up, like it was a weekend, I would like get up, turn my computer on, then go take a shower, you know, then put my clothes on, and then maybe some of the stuff, you know, by then it was like, oh, it's heated up and it's ready. But like now, like, no, I just press a button on my computer, and in like a couple seconds, like, computer on. The speed at which everything works has been fantastic. Granted, I did upgrade my PC when I did this, but like, I don't know, man, it's really great. Everything's like pretty clean. There's a bunch of customization is just like really open to you. I almost thought about putting like 4 different start like panel things like around the corners of every part of the screen, and I was like, no, that's stupid. Let's not do that. Yeah. So basically, all the only negatives really are like, I guess how like turbo lazy you are after you like get everything on Linux. I'm still moving stuff and I'm still adjusting things in my stream, and I think I'll actually just do new things for like my stream overlay and all that stuff, rather than trying to like, you know, bring like all the old stuff back. Shoot, I don't really know what else to say, but all I know is that, look, I moved over to Linux, and like, aside from like one disagreement with a friend, I've been having a hell of a time. So yeah, that's just sort of me rattling off everything about Linux, pretty much. It's a good time. Personalization's nice. It does what you want it to. The terminal is also scary, but also intriguing, because like, you don't have to like go to browser pages necessarily for some stuff. You can just go, what is it? I'm gonna get corrected. Director's notes, editor's notes. Correct me on this. Is it like apt install or something? It's one of those. Like, you can tell I'm not very confident with all of it yet. But I mean, yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm on Linux Mint. Linux Mint has been a godsend. And like, for most part, outside of like a couple of things, you can just click everything like it's Windows. It's really not that bad. I don't know what else to say. I'm just gonna full send this and hope for the best. Thank you so much. If you want to check me out, my name is Royal Bunny.
Hello, everyone. Apologies for the lack of a backdrop. I don't have one made yet. More fresh these days. Not a lot of assets. So we've got the lovely pipes.sh in the background on the terminal. It's kind of like keys jingle jingle. So I can't surf on CS, so this is going to have to do. I wanted to talk a bit about something, as per request, of course, but I would do it anyway regardless. Windows. It sucks a lot, right? Lately, especially, they've been going in a way that I cannot, like, morally stand by. And that comes with, like, the AI stuff especially, right? Here this past month, they have axed support for Windows 10. So unless you have an extended like LTS version of Windows 10 for businesses, or you decide that you want to pay however many dollars a month, I think it's like $100 and climbing as the years go by, for extended security support and updates, then you have to move to Windows 11. Windows 11 is the most invasive and most bloated piece of software I've ever seen in my entire life. I ran it for about 2 months. I had constant audio issues. My work used it. They had 2 different times, I think, where they pushed updates to Windows 11 that caused about 4 blue screens every day for a lot of our employees, and that was hell. So, I have decided to switch entirely all of my stuff to Linux as of the past 4 years. it was definitely the best decision I've made, like, technologically in my entire life. So for content, I'm a VTuber, right? And knowing that I can move away from Windows without having to sacrifice everything that I do is really nice. I can sit here, I can play my games, I can stream, OBS works perfectly, a bunch of the plugins work just fine, vtube works, Reactive works, Live 2D works. It's nice to know that there are options, and those options aren't like super invasive spyware and stuff that bloats up my PC and uses resources. Because being a VTuber, especially, once you get into using Live 2D, that uses a lot of GPU, a lot of RAM, right? Processing of that nature. And having an operating system that doesn't have a bunch of overhead that's eating up all your resources is pretty nice, right? You don't have to worry about all your stuff crashing because you ran out of RAM, right? Or VRAM. Granted, I've got a little tiny graphics card, so it still tends to when I play bigger games, but that's something I compensate for, and it would happen way worse on Windows. Now, naturally, since I am pretty used to Linux, and I enjoy it a lot, I recommend it to pretty much everyone, right? Because I do think that Linux is for everyone. I don't think there is any sort of technical ability that you have to overcome or acquire to be able to use this. Fancy things in the terminal is all stuff you can learn whenever you want. It's not needed. The installation process, the same as Windows, right? You put it onto a USB drive with something like Balena Etcher or Rufus and boot into the little USB drive instead of Windows, and then install it. And there you go. You set it up like a brand new PC. It's kind of like removing training wheels in a way, or like moving from an automatic to a manual, or even something as simple as switching from a sedan to an SUV, right? Or to a coupe. It's a little different, but it's all pretty much the same when it gets down to it, right? It runs the same, it works the same. There's some little visual differences. The way some things are laid out are a bit different, but it all kind of feels relatively the same when you get used to it. And I think people kind of hype Linux up to be this boogeyman of the PC world, right? Where it's some master hacker thing and you have to have a PhD in computer science to be able to use it. But my grandma uses it. So like there's kind of a gap there. The skill floor is very, very, very low when it comes to Linux. But the skill cap is extremely high. So you could be like my grandma and just use it for your browser and for like your Excel spreadsheets and be fine. Or you can do what PewDiePie did and go and make your Linux install look like the craziest thing you've ever seen and get into editing a whole bunch of stuff and optimizing everything and yada yada. There's different levels to it. And honestly, I kind of recommend the latter half because knowing your PC in and out is kind of like knowing your car in and out, right? You want to know exactly how everything ticks. That way, when something happens, you're not just entirely lost, right? These are tools that people use on a daily basis, especially in content creation. This is your work. There comes a responsibility to know exactly how it works, right? To service your own machines. At the end of the day, it's just responsible. Regardless of all that, thank you all for listening. And I hope to see you all soon.
Hiya, I'm Phanterm. I'm a game developer who streams as part of my routine. I made the jump from Windows 11 to Fedora about 2 months ago now. And I'm here to tell you, don't wait, do it now. Switch to Linux, today. Oh, it's too hard. You wanna know what's hard? Oh, you want to do audio production? I use a Focusrite Scarlett Solo interface that I couldn't use without having to install Process Lasso, because Windows 11 has dedicated cores for its own audio drivers that override whatever I'm doing. But that was a temporary solution, because under moments of high CPU load, Process Lasso would fail, and every time that would happen, I'd have to change the frequency rate of my interface to reset it. Temporarily. You know what else is hard? Trying to close literally any program when it fails, because my task manager literally did not work. I had to download a third-party task manager just to close something like Task Manager. Guess what else? I couldn't even open system settings. Why would I need to do that so often, you might ask? Well, I have to change the volume in system settings. But you have a volume icon on your taskbar. Phanterm, why don't you just click on that? That's probably because it doesn't work! Oh yeah, let's talk about Windows updates. Gee whiz! I wonder if Windows updates would fix all of my problems. Guess I better schedule some. Oh, looks like it decided to install them now. And it failed. That's okay, at least it won't try again later. Oh, okay, I guess I'll just restart my computer. Oh, sorry, did I forget to mention Copilot? Isn't it just great that you have to jump through so many hoops to go into your registry and prevent Copilot from opening? And it does it anyway. And it keeps doing it. It never goes away. It never will go away, will it? You and I both know. There's only one real way to ensure that you can escape from AI. But oh, Linux is too hard. And you may be thinking to yourself, Term, why are you so angry? Angry? I don't have to deal with Windows anymore, because what few problems I have on Linux are fixed with a single command that I never have to run again. But I get it. You're a professional with discerning character. You need to know that the programs you use for your work will run on Linux. Let's touch on that, shall we? Okie dokie. Well, I'm going to focus on the game development aspects of Linux. For streaming-related advice, there are plenty of others who are dedicated to this and have better, more comprehensive lists. Let's start with game engines. I primarily work in the Godot engine, which seems to work one-to-one with Windows as far as I can tell, and I use that one the most. Unity also works relatively well, however. If you depend on their version control system, you will run into problems. Namely, that it doesn't work. As for Unreal, I don't know. I've never used Unreal in my life. When it comes to art programs, you have access to a wide variety of options for 2D and 3D both. And if you tell yourself that you can't afford to use anything besides Adobe, well, there are ways. I would argue that the audio experience on Linux has so far been vastly superior to Windows. All of my hardware is class compliant and worked the moment I plugged them in. No drivers required. I use Reaper as my DAW of choice, and the only real gotcha here is that VSTs require a little setup to get working. But again, as with most workarounds on Linux, this is a one-time fix. For recording, I'm currently running OBS and capturing this avatar through a Steam app called Warudo, which I'm running through a Proton compatibility layer. And if you aren't familiar with Proton,
you will be. You will be.
Ultimately, I chose Fedora because it seemed like a good balance between the control I wanted over my system while having a stable baseline experience for daily driving. The fun part about getting into this ecosystem is rediscovering the notion that working on your computer can be fun, because it actually is your computer, not beholden to the cloud, not jockeyed by AI garbage and Notepad you didn't ask for, and not yanked around by updates you didn't want, that add things you won't use, that bloats your system at best and breaks it at worst. Oh yeah, also it's free.
Hello, and thank you for watching the video. And it's really nice to show that these creators have went out on their way to make a video like this, to make it to where it's honestly, it's probably like the best thing that they could have ever done when it comes to voicing their opinions, providing the reasons as to why people should not be on Windows at this point. At least as of right now. Like, I understand, it may not be the leader of Linux, but it's very much getting there with the amount of things that Microsoft is doing, especially when 30% of their code is AI based. That isn't good at all. That's a matter of fact, that's terrifying. But what I will say is thank you so much for watching the video. Again, go ahead and check out these creators. Go ahead and check out these game developers. Go ahead and check them out. They have, took time out of their own day to submit clips for this, and I really do appreciate it. Linux is very much a community, just like, VTubing is in streaming in general, and it takes more than just like one person to kind of pull things together. So I hope you all have a good night. Thank you for watching. Please check out these creators. Their links will be in the description, as I said at the beginning. And have a good day. And if you have any questions, especially when it comes to Linux, don't be afraid to go to the Linux VTuber guide. Don't be afraid to click on and go to the Discord so we could try to work out these issues. A lot of these issues are kind of like intermingling with each other as well. And I hope you all have a great night. Bye-bye.